On to the Monday, November 13th meeting of the Pine Bluffs Town Council. We'll everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item is the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. On to new business. First item is a building permit for 512 Walnut Street. Just to give a small amount of history, the resident, Mr. Buckle, was informed in early to mid-July about the need for updating of his building permit. Since that date, we have held, I don't know the number, but we've held numerous council meetings to a month, and he was informed that he would need to be in attendance at one of those meetings to show support or to answer questions for his building permit. Do not see him in attendance tonight. I don't know, is there any other discussion about that? If you want to go into anything, or?
Well, I don't think that we ought to be approving additional building permits when the original construction project hasn't even been completed or addressed or dealt with.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
The neighbors have been very patient, so I think.
They have been very patient, but they have become a bit more vocal about this subject, so, anything else? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Mayor, you could move to postpone indefinitely. Essentially a motion to table.
Okay.
The difference between tabling and postponement is a postponement comes back up at a certain specific time. If you table something, it just stays there indefinitely. So it's, tabling is the same as an indefinite postponement.
I move to postpone this building permit indefinitely.
Second.
Moved and seconded to postpone the building permit indefinitely. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is resolution 2024-04 budget amendment.
Mayor and Council, this budget amendment takes into consideration the grant that we received from Homeland Security in the amount of $14,862 to cover the cost of replacing police department radios in their vehicles.
Will that grant, will it cover the purchase of those radios in their entirety?
It will cover the purchase price of the radios. It may not cover some of the other equipment and installation, only because there have been a couple of moderate price changes
Right.
since we applied for the grant.
Sure.
But it's pretty much the majority of it will be covered.
Good.
I move to approve resolution 2024-04.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve resolution 2024-04. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is charter ordinance repealing ordinance 1-300. An ordinance repealing charter ordinance 1-300 of the Pine Bluffs, Town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming, entitled Charter Ordinance for May Elections in Odd Numbered Years, modifying and resetting the town's elections for the governing body and the town ballot propositions from May in odd number years to November in election years, establishing a procedure for new election times and processes. I think we've previously discussed this, or I know we've previously discussed this. I have a couple questions in reading this, and maybe you have had time to talk to Alex or about our question this morning. So, I have a question about section 4. I think everything else has kind of been cleared up, but section 4, and I think I understand where we're going with this to the extent that we can refer to the Wyoming statute and the way it is written. That would be our preference, but I guess I'm curious about the wording in section 4, which is the town clerk's responsibilities, and whether we need to clarify the dates and how we, not the dates, but how far we back it up from a general election.
I'm sorry, I can't find it on here.
Here, you can have mine.
Yeah. Or you could keep yours, I'll have mine.
There's a paper copy, Alex.
How did you do that? It didn't work on the arrows. You're so smart. Yeah. Sucks to be a dinosaur, right?
Yeah, it is.
And do you have a specific question about that?
Well, I think it's using the state statute, quoting the state statute extensively here, which, states 68 days prior to a primary
That's
election,
correct.
which we will not be having. And then, so, I feel like the last sentence addresses more of propositions, which I think, I don't know whether that 60 days date is right or wrong for us, but I don't have as much issue with that, but I think if we're gonna put 68 days prior to primary election, that's not specific to the town of Pine Bluffs enough.
You want it to be fewer or more,
Well-
or?
Do you know our current, how far back it goes? It's okay if we don't, I just,
Uh,
I didn't get
Isn't it
down
like
to it this
30?
afternoon.
Isn't it like 35 or something?
oh, I was thinking it was 45, but it might be 35.
It's like open for 40, or like it opens at 45 days and then you have 10 days to
Yeah.
file. And then after that, it's like 35 from
35.
the close
It's
date.
something like
So
that.
So-
it's something goofy.
It's not very long.
So do you
Oh,
think
no.
that the 68 days is required by the Laramie County Clerk for, for a, here's my question, is what we're outlining in here is the number of days in which we have to submit. So prior to that, I don't see anything in here about how long our, the open period is to get your name on the ballot. But this is saying we have no later than 68 days prior to the election, we must submit those names to the county.
Yeah, and I suspect that, they picked that timeline so that, county clerks wouldn't, would have enough time to prepare the ballots, get them
Sure.
printed and all that kind of thing.
The differential being 68 days for us. Let's assume that that's the right number. I don't know whether it is, but it's in there for some reason. So, but it still says prior to the primary election, so obviously, they don't need to reprocess between the primary and the general, they're just paring down. So if we remove the primary, if we're not going to have a primary election now we're basically like 128 days, or I don't remember our exact.
Well, we were just talking about that.
Actually 3, so that's like another 90 days prior that we're having people submit for an election that's not held till November.
Well, I think part of the toss-up here was whether there would be a primary. And Monique Meese, one of the attorneys in the county attorney's office, sent me an email wanting to know what our statutory authority was for not wanting to have a primary. And I think what they're concerned about is if we have, 17 people running.
Sure.
So they got this ballot that's ridiculous.
But how does the school board get away with that one? Like they don't have a primary that you file in August and you're on the ballot in November. So how is that possible, but they would want us to have a primary?
I guess maybe it's harder to get school board people to run or something. I mean, who knows what the legislature decided and why?
Yeah, but we had a home rule before
Yeah,
that allowed us to make rules completely outside of this.
that's true.
So why can't we make partial rules that apply to us?
I'm not saying that we can't, but we're relying on the Laramie County clerk to kind of run this.
Sure.
And so, they're not, I don't know how we require the Laramie County clerk to do something.
Sure,
That's
I
off
100%
there.
agree with that. So my question is to clarify this one area. If we have some written communication that says what will be required of us.
If I remember correctly, when we had our communication with Deborah Lee, she asked us if we were holding a primary or not, right, Kim?
Yeah, she just asked if we were going to.
She didn't, say we had to, she just said,
Well-
would you be holding a primary?
Yeah, and then she ran upstairs to Monique.
Oh.
I get an email on
Yeah,
it.
well,
So that's how that went.
But that was quite a while ago you had this conversation. I just want
a
some,
couple months.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
So that's their ruling?
No, I don't think it's a ruling. The essence of Monique's email was that, you know, the clerk had, she'd figured out, or Monique had figured out that we were thinking about not having a primary. She wanted to know what our statutory authority was for not doing that, and, I mean, obviously, a little, seminar on home rule is probably in the works here. But I can also see under a polity kind of issue that now we're sort of in a situation where we have to kind of try to dovetail with the clerk.
Sure.
So, it's not like, I don't think, the tenor of her email, and you guys saw it, really wasn't threatening at all. It was,
No,
well, this is new, how are we gonna do this? So, we haven't really explored options there at this point. So, I think I need to learn a little more about how steep that makes the hill for the county clerk,
Sure.
so that, we can work that out.
But I also think, just to this point, we have examples. We have school board examples, we have, I don't remember, the city of Cheyenne run primaries?
Yes, I do.
Well, there's all those districts and boards and
Like
stuff,
the
and they don't
conservation
generally have
district, doesn't
primaries. Fire districts
Yeah,
and stuff.
I don't see this as insurmountable, I'm just I'm concerned for us, and that, if, it'd be great if it was necessary. Like, if everyone wanted to do this so badly that we had to pare it down through a primary process, but frankly, that hasn't exactly been the case.
Isn't the purpose of a primary to narrow down the field in the party platform, and we're not running under party platforms at all?
Right. Yeah.
Which is maybe that's how the school board gets away from it, because they also don't do party
They're nonpartisan.
affiliations. So if you're not having party affiliations, then would you need a primary to limit your party
Sure.
choices?
Yeah, this is all pretty, I just think it gets cumbersome for us, in terms of capital outlay. Cause, we're reimbursing the county for their work for this. We're paying to get on the ballot.
We might not get a discount, though.
Well, I think we had some conversation how that
Oh,
would be a
did they say it'd be
difference.
cheaper if we did not have a primary? Because they wouldn't have to print us
Yes.
on that,
right.
yeah.
That was my understanding, the
Okay.
way the email initially read.
Well,
And I'll
I'll-
forward you that email.
yeah, I'll
I'm not in
obviously
any
fight for it.
disagreement with anything
Yeah.
here, I think we're kind of, we have like bits and pieces, but if we could kind of get together and
Yeah.
make sure we know what the plan is, and then put the appropriate number of days that they require in here.
I wonder if it has something to do with whether you're a lawmaker or not. Cause like school districts don't make law.
Yeah.
I don't know if that has any, I don't know why that would matter, but that would be the only distinction I can think of between this body and, like the districts and school board and stuff, is you guys can pass laws.
I don't know why they ever, that was just what they did when I got on there, but, on the fire board, but the fire board always runs a separate election, but they run it in November.
Yeah.
They're like over in the corner, like, look at us, come
Don't
vote.
forget.
And I don't,
Yeah.
frankly, I still think it's worthwhile, even if that's what we had to do and got a special permission to be in the same voting place like they do. but I'd prefer a more streamlined method if we can
Yeah,
make it work,
for
for
sure.
sure, so.
I think our best, just right off the cuff, I think our best argument is that as a municipal body politic, we have that ability to elect out of non-uniform laws, and the election code is, obviously, because we elected out of it, you know, with 1-300. So, in theory, it would seem to me that we can keep doing that as to certain issues. That would be my argument.
But I understand your point, that we
Yeah.
can't force their will to take us on, but I think they would be workable.
Well, we're really not forcing them to do anything, we're asking them, telling them they don't have to do something, so if it saves us a few bucks, and it's not something that, not like we have people knocking down the door to be up here, you know, so.
For sure.
That's a good point. And the way that works, right, is we don't have precincts or anything, so if we're electing 2 and 4 run, it's just the top 2. And that's what a primary would accomplish anyway. I can't remember a time when we've had more than twice the number of places. Mayor, yes, we've had times when when there were 3 people running for mayor and stuff. And maybe it's just as simple as when you elect people that are making laws, you know, you don't want to have that split vote issue, you know, where you have 5 people running and, you know, the votes scattered out,
Or you
but the
don't-
one that comes in first doesn't have a plurality.
Sure.
You know, you could win with like 25% of the vote. But if that person ran against the second person, it might flip the election. So sometimes you get into that.
I believe like well, those are in, it doesn't matter, but that routinely happens in primaries.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's how we end up with,
And Alaska has that weighted average thing where you gotta vote for all of them and rank them, ranked voting, and that's a nightmare. So,
well, anybody have any other discussion? I'm happy to continue to.
Alex, I forwarded you both of those emails that we had communication with Deborah Lee, just so you are in the loop of that.
Anything? It seems more cumbersome than it should be. But,
Lots
All
of
right.
players.
nothing else?
I have nothing.
So our hope would be that if we could get all those questions answered, we could have a first reading in December.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
is this first reading?
Like, I guess
just-
it could be first reading
I mean, we can always amend.
after the first reading.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, I move to approve charter ordinance repealing ordinance 1-300 on the first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to repeal ordinance 1-300 on the first reading. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Can you set that?
Yeah, that makes things quicker.
Next up is visitor comments. Do we have any visitor comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to department reports. Dave?
The airport board met on October 26th. The primary topic of conversation was how to secure funding for the jet fuel A storage project. Kevin Margaret was going to look into a FAST grant, and ultimately that turned out the project didn't qualify for that. There was a suggestion that we look at finding funding through the Wyoming Business Council. And I spoke with Kim about that, and she indicated that is an avenue that was attempted 3 years ago. And because of some other funding we get through YDOT and the FAA, we didn't qualify for funding there either. So we are looking at options now. Kim is going to revisit that with the Wyoming Business Council. And we're also exploring some other options such as the USDA. So, as of yet, no good news yet on how to fund that project. That's what we discussed.
I know it's a small part of your discussion, but as long as I have Alex here, Alex, I would, I guess we need to start coming, I've had a lot of, inquiries about, I guess, private development on the airport, which is quite common, but the matter is the leasing of the property to build said projects. So I don't really know where we jump off from here, but I think we need some clarification about people that want to build private hangars, frankly, and all of that business.
Or privately funded Jet A tank.
Or,
Sure, well, the problem we've run into most frequently is with what are called through-the-fence operations.
sure,
And the FAA just hates them.
but that's not what we're asking for.
But if you're inside,
Right,
then, you can beef up your security accordingly.
right. So
But there
I
is a
know-
little more infrastructure when you're inside.
Sure. Well, I think one of the things, just thinking out loud, that I don't really know about, I mean, these 100-year leases and all of that business, I'm sure we can investigate, and you probably know plenty about all of that, and how they renew, and how they transfer, and all of those things, and they make it possible for, for really what we need, which is some private investment in our airport, and stop, being concerned all the time with how the government is going to pay for more private citizens to have more places to put their planes, although I think that is one of our jobs, it's not our primary job, and so I think this is a good thing, but we have to know how that works to tell people how it works, and coupled with that is what our, I think the shocker to people are gonna be like, I can build a hangar and that's great, who builds the ramp? And all of that business, which is no small piece of the puzzle to putting a private hangar on an airport.
Cheyenne Airport stays afloat through 71 leases. An awful lot of those are outside the fence, and the ones outside the fence are a little bit less challenging. If you're inside the fence, or if it's qualifies under certain FAA procedures, and it's not for an airport purpose, then you've got to go through an approval process in order to place that there, or you risk running across and foul of what are called the grant assurances. And the grant assurances are, if we do get a grant, you've got, like 60 pages of grant, well, you've seen them. I mean, there's masses of them. And, I mean, they get into everything and everything. So, conceptually, it's a pretty straightforward process, but there is a fair amount of administrative overburden with those things, especially if, well, like we just did one for Department of Family Services. It's a 20-year lease, big beautiful building we remodeled up there. It's gonna help support that airport for a long, long time. But with that, we had a lot of hoops we had to jump through to make it happen,
Even though it's outside the fence.
even though it's outside the fence, because it's technically
Still on property.
on qualifying property, yeah. So, we can definitely, you know, make it work if we can find the right businesses, and if they're aviation related, then we're in business. There's no problem with the grant assurances.
But Cheyenne has privately held T hangars.
It does.
And so does it need, are you saying it more easily jumps through the hoops when it's a business as opposed to, I wanna build a hangar and restore or build RVs, not RVs, but, you know, RV planes?
No, I think the line more likely falls between businesses or usages that are aviation related and those that are not.
Yeah,
So if somebody wants to put a dog kennel out there, for
Yeah,
example,
no.
you know,
well, I wouldn't support that, but yeah, I understand what you're asking,
Yeah.
for sure, or saying. Okay,
but it's doable. If you can find the business, we can figure out a way to do it.
so how would we proceed with that if somebody had real interest and they'd really done their homework and started to dig in? We just need to know what their project looks like, where they propose to put it on the
Right.
airport, and we would go from there.
Right.
Okay.
Then we just submit it to Denver and let them, the FSDO down there can monkey around with it. A small airport like ours, they're probably gonna be pretty lenient.
I don't know, they've had a GPS approach sitting on their desk for
3 years.
7 years, it seems like. It's
Yeah.
been a long time.
Really?
It just keeps getting, well, I don't know, the guy that was working on it at FSDO was, you know, all that's left is to fly the GPS approach. It's all, they just need signed off and somebody to fly it. And
That shouldn't be a
Still-
big deal.
Yeah, sure, you're
Yep,
right.
I don't think it should be, but it seems like it. I don't know.
I'll get you a name.
Yeah,
Sounds
that'd be
good.
great. Yeah, we seem to be striking out on that, like, we get a lot of runaround, I mean, I've never talked to them, but talking to others, they get a lot of moving around the department with nobody who really knows when it might happen.
Yeah, there's one gentleman that's been there for like 87 years, and he's the guy you have to talk to get things to happen.
Well, after that, I'm sure he'll be a friend of the town of Pine Bluffs.
I'll get you some
Okay,
follow-up on that.
thank you.
Alright, thanks. I have nothing else.
Nothing new for me.
Nothing new for me.
Anything else, Alex?
No, I think we're good.
Chief Smith?
Nothing new of general business, but I did want to approach the council, because there won't be a council meeting in the future. I will be approaching Ford because our other SUV is now sitting in the shop with the second computer went out on it 2 days ago. So I will be approaching Ford to see why this is happening, because to me it's unacceptable that it's happened back to back on both expeditions. So working with Kim to try to figure out a way around this, but just wanted to let you guys know that we are down to bare bones now with vehicles. Not what I planned to do. I want to express that I had other plans with these vehicles and how we were going to space that out. So I do want that to be known that this computer issue I did not foresee coming, and I will be contacting Ford and seeing what we can do about this and what their remedy, if they have any recalls or anything like that in the works with that year and engine and stuff like that. So, but I wanted to express that to you guys so you knew exactly what was going on. So,
Great.
Thank you.
but no new business. Thank you.
Thank you.
They both happen to be 2017 Expeditions, and they're off by 1 digit on their VIN. So they came off that assembly line, one right after the other.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, right.
Kim, do we have any funding that we could possibly purchase another vehicle?
We have ways of moving funding around. It would require a resolution and vote by you all to, put more money into our project, our equipment project account and pull from a different project. So that's how we could make that happen.
So your point of view, Chief, would be we need to get something going on this. This is,
I think so. I've been impressed with the trucks and the gas mileage and all that stuff. It's a really good time to buy two. Not saying I like the situation we're in, but with a lot of Black Friday and stuff like that, there is some deals to be had when buying. But again, not what I wanted to do, but that is the hand that we're kind of dealt at the moment. Because that car that we're left with has 177,000 miles and counting, and I mean, there's quite a bit of issues with it. It runs, not safely. I don't trust it at speed on the highway or interstate, and being a cop car, that concerns me. So that's my only issue there, is we have a running vehicle, but I don't truly trust it.
so from a funding standpoint, Kim, would you recommend that we, I don't know whether we have to appropriate the money first or after, but that we release an RFP soon?
We have released the
You have
RFP just so
released
that we could see what the pricing comes back in at, and it's pretty much coming in at the same as the last two that we've purchased, so, we'd be looking at doing a resolution to move approximately
So we would
52,000 in funds.
look at the bids in December, correct?
I would like to, it would have been something that I would have brought before you at the second November meeting. However, I'm assuming we won't have one since it's the day before Thanksgiving, unless you want to hold it a different day. And so I may send out a group email for you to all think about and let me know if you would like to proceed, only because of the situation that we're in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie?
I had a Zoom meeting today with Tyler Payments. There was a miscommunication. We were supposed to set up our courtside payments, and they decided they wanted to set up the entire payments today. Only I did not have IT here to help me, so, because we don't have IT in the building and we have to schedule that, so that is now going to be scheduled. But I will let you know that when we go to do that, we will probably have to be down with card payments for like a half a day by the time they install the card reader, the software on the back side, and that will probably make Renee's computer not usable. So there might be a half day when we are not able to take payments. When we get that scheduled, we coordinate everybody's schedule and we get that, then I will obviously post something and, obviously not when bills are
21st.
due. But, yeah, we need to get that done sooner rather than later. We've been waiting a while. So, that's the next step. So we're hoping to coordinate that. I need to reach out to Lincoln tomorrow and make that happen. So that's, and we held open enrollment for our employees, Friday, Thursday.
Yeah.
And got that done, so.
Great.
That's pretty much it.
All right, Kim?
Just to touch base a little bit more on the Jet A fuel system. You know, I had a conversation with a couple of the inspectors from the FAA when they were out at the airport, and they had mentioned that they thought that we should be able to get funds for Jet A, and I had said it was disapproved because we already had. And they said, are you looking at putting in a whole new fuel station? And I said, no, just expanding the existing station. And so they thought that we could find funding through the FAA to expand, but not to build a whole new fuel station. So I've reached out to our consultant who is gonna be working with them to see if that's gonna be any way possible. So it may not be quite a dead issue yet, but then the other part of that would be getting it on our WASIP and scheduled, which I believe it's already on the WASIP, but it says a 100% town-funded project as opposed to not.
Do you know how far down the list it is on that?
It's not that far, but it's definitely after the runway or the taxiway rehabilitation and the apron, not the apron, yeah, the apron. Because that pavement there is shot. And so one of the questions we have is, you know, when they rated the pavement, they rated that apron as the worst. And then the taxiway was like right after that, and then the runway was right after that. And right now, we're at a full rehabilitation of the apron. We're very close to a full rehabilitation of the taxiway. Well, if we wait and do the runway when it's time, then we're gonna be at a full rehab as opposed to just kind of a fixing and overlay. So those are some discussions that we're having now, is figuring out when does it make the most sense to get a contractor out here to do that, and should we at least combine the apron and the taxiway as opposed to waiting another couple of years and then the taxiway needs a complete rehab.
What are the advantages or disadvantages of each? What if you just punt it all and do it all at once?
Sure. So one of the huge disadvantages is our town share of 4% and 4% of, you know,
Of a lot.
of a wicked lot, yeah. But one of the things that was discussed was that, you know, the initial estimates, which were extremely high, were based on pavement thickness for heavier aircraft than what we can accommodate on our runway. So they were going to reevaluate the estimates, figuring that we don't have aircraft that weigh more than, like, we don't have a 747 landing on our runway, so. So the thickness and the federal requirements for our runway would be, and our taxiway and all that would be much less than.
So let's say we do put in a Jet A tank and we're taking in small jets. What would you have to look at the weight limits of those and
Yes,
take that into account on it?
Yes.
Currently, do you know how big a plane we can accommodate without doing anything different?
I think that that is more dictated by our runway length than anything right now. But I hate to quote this, but I want to say 30,000 pounds.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Heavy machine.
That's probably right.
But I would have to,
Probably a small jet weight.
Yeah.
small jet, okay. So, again, we're going to rework some of those figures and see where we land. We were also going to petition YDOT to see if the state would absorb a larger share than they normally would on a project of that nature.
You know, and this is a topic for another day, I'm sure, but I'd just like to point out that we're classified, I can't remember the step below what we're classified at now, according to YDOT. You know, we have a little something going now, and I'm not saying little like it's not important, but we kind of have one thing, we have crop spraying. If we could get a little bit more going, and there's the parameters to become a business airport, but I think the funding model changes a fair amount when you move from, like ours is, it's not, there's one smaller than ours, but we're like
Just a general aviation.
we're like local, and according to YDOT, I think business is the next one up or something like that. I'm curious about how the funding changes when you get to a different
So
tier.
what level of business would you have to get up to that?
I think it's like a number of takeoffs and landings and then a certain amount of productive activity going on at the airport, but I'm speaking about stuff I don't
Okay.
100% know about, so.
Because there finally is stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, the YDOT aviation map plainly show we're a specific color on that map, which dictates what type of
Yeah.
airport we are.
Gotcha.
And it's not like Lusk is a lesser airport, the way they grade them than ours is, for example. I'm not saying it's a lesser airport. I know the airport manager there, and I don't want him to get mad at me, but.
What's the length of this runway?
5,300?
Yeah, I thought it was 5330 or.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's over 6,000, isn't it?
I can tell you, 53 sticks in my mind.
Yeah, that's what stuck in my head too.
This is very important. Okay. Everybody wants to go watch the football game, right? So. Anything else, Kim?
No, not at this time.
All right. What? Am I supposed to be doing something?
I don't know.
I was just showing you that they had
Oh.
requested that at the end of last week, and so
Okay.
this is, yes.
Great.
It's
So,
5330.
Right on the money.
It's good, yeah.
I knew it's 53 something.
Is there
So
a
I
courtesy
Didn't know
car
the
out there?
30 though.
Yes, there is.
it's
Lusk
not
was
just a
famous,
courtesy car, it's a Cadillac.
Lusk was famous for the courtesy car that had no floor in the back seat
Oh,
Oh, nice.
and no reverse.
Oh, good.
If you parked it on slanty parking and going downhill, you needed help getting out because it didn't have a roof.
Well, the hole in the floor in the back, you could just.
Yeah, the old Flintstone style.
Yeah, just to be clear, we have a lot of feelings about our courtesy car and whether it's like various things, and we want to keep it nice, but there are some really bad courtesy cars out there,
Oh, yeah.
so. All right, announcements, meetings,
Okay, so this Wednesday, 6 o'clock is your elected officials' quarterly dinner meeting at Sadie's. We had about 30 RSVPs, so
Good.
should be pretty full house. The next meeting, if you all so choose, I guess, I don't know your thoughts on a second meeting for November, but if you're forgoing that due to Thanksgiving, then your next meeting would be December 11th at 7 PM. But if you're wanting a second meeting, then we need to come up with a day and a time and all the things.
I'm fine just having this meeting this month unless we see anybody sees an issue.
We wanted to have another one, but since.
Dying
We
to
can.
see you all
I'm
again.
not going anywhere.
You can have one by yourself.
Okay, so the next meeting is,
December 11th, 7 o'clock.
great.
And also because I had to ask Renee today,
Oh,
Christmas at home is
yes.
December 4th.
that's right, and I was supposed to say Christmas at home is December 4th, yes, and that is coming up quickly. We also have the utility gift card raffle that Renee got out today, so the raffle tickets, you can buy those in Town Hall. She has her little deal ready to go, and they're getting all things Christmas at home ready. It will be a Polar Express Christmas. She's sending out letters to all the local businesses, and all the things. But if you're interested, feel free to call and she will get you signed up for all of the things that you can donate, and should be a fun Christmas at home.
Great. All right, anything else?
Move to adjourn.
Move and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Will you second?
I was gonna